Look, I'm just saying that maybe, and hear me out on this, maybe we shouldn't have spent the last 3 centuries treating humans like the galaxy's emotional support animals. Ambassador Cathrix chittered nervously, all 6 of their appendages twitching in what their species considered the diplomatic equivalent of, "I told you so." The gathered members of the Galactic Council shifted uncomfortably in their environmental pods. The massive chamber, usually filled with the self-important droning of 200 different species discussing trade regulations and cultural exchange programs, had fallen into an unprecedented silence. On the main holoscreen, a human diplomat stood at a podium on Earth, looking thoroughly done with everything. Not angry, not upset, just done. The kind of done that comes after you've explained something 200 times and realize you're going to have to explain it again. "So," the human said in that terrifyingly calm voice that humans got when they'd moved beyond anger into something far worse. "Just to make sure I understand this correctly, you've been deliberately manipulating our species because we make you feel better?" Ambassador Zixtal of the Meridian Collective raised one of their sensory stalks. "Manipulating is such a harsh word. We prefer therapeutic cultural guidance." They gestured with their primary manipulator appendage in what they assumed was a soothing manner. "You humans are just so emotionally available. The way you care about everything, the way you form attachments to even inanimate objects. It's very healing for many of our species who struggle with emotional expression." The human diplomat's eye twitched. Behind them, the entirety of Earth's assembled governmental representatives wore identical expressions of, "Are you fucking kidding me?" "Let me get this straight," the human continued, pulling up a holographic list. "The reason the Galactic Council has been vetoing our applications for advanced drive technology. You might use it to leave the emotional support zones," Cathrix muttered. "The reason we've been denied access to quantum computing? Your species might become too logical and lose that wonderful emotional spontaneity," Zixtal added helpfully. "And the reason you've been sharing edited versions of your historical and scientific databases? Well, we didn't want you to feel overwhelmed," Ambassador Graxex burbled from their methane tank. "You're such a young species, like adorable space puppies." The human diplomat closed their eyes and took a deep breath. When they opened them again, there was something new there. Something that made every alien species in the council chamber remember, quite suddenly, that humans were descended from persistence hunters. "Right," the human said, reaching into their pocket and pulling out what appeared to be an ancient mechanical timepiece. "I'm setting this for exactly 1 standard galactic month. In that time, you will provide us with complete, unedited access to all technological, historical, and scientific databases. You will remove all artificial barriers to human advancement. You will formally acknowledge our species as equals." "Or?" Zixtal asked, immediately regretting the question. The human smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Or we'll show you exactly why treating humanity like emotional support animals was a spectacularly bad idea. You see, we've noticed something interesting over the years. Despite your therapeutic cultural guidance, we've managed to piece together quite a bit about how the galaxy really works. And we've made some fascinating discoveries of our own." The human pressed a button, and suddenly every screen in the council chamber lit up with diagrams, equations, and designs that made several species' environmental systems hiccup in shock. That's impossible," Cathrix whispered. "Those are theoretical designs for technologies we haven't even—" "Oh, these?" The human smile widened. "These are just our hobby projects. You see, while you've been treating us like adorable pets, we've been doing what humans do best, getting creative out of spite." The screens changed again, showing what appeared to be massive orbital structures around Earth. "We call these spite stations," the human continued cheerfully. "Turns out when you tell humans they can't have something, we get really motivated to build it anyway. Usually bigger and with more explosions than strictly necessary." Ambassador Grex's methane tank bubbled in distress. But our sensors never detected—" "Of course they didn't. We figured out your sensor technology ages ago. We just kept pretending we hadn't because it was easier to work without you noticing. We've actually been running a galaxy-wide betting pool on how long it would take you to realize we were playing along." The human checked their timepiece again. "So, 1 month. Either you start treating us as equals, or we'll show you exactly what happens when humanity's collective patience runs out. And trust me, you really don't want that. We've got 3 centuries of repressed sass to work through." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had never agreed on anything in their collective histories were suddenly finding common ground in the shared realization that they had massively underestimated humanity. In the midst of the pandemonium, Ambassador Cathrix noticed something odd about the human's timepiece. That's just an ancient Earth watch, isn't it? It doesn't actually do anything? The human winked. Nope. But it made for great dramatic effect, didn't it? We learned that from all those entertainment broadcasts you kept sending us. Figure if you're going to treat us like we're in a reality show, we might as well give you good television. As the council scrambled to draft emergency resolutions and authorization codes, the human turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and one more thing. We've actually had working quantum computers for the past 50 years. We just kept them hidden because watching you try to protect us from them was honestly hilarious. The memes alone were worth it. The last thing the council saw before the transmission cut was the human pulling out their phone and typing something. Moments later, every communication device in the chamber pinged with the same message. Humanity has created a new group chat. Galaxy's most patient pet parents. Attached was a GIF of an ancient Earth video. A small animal, apparently a cat, knocking items off a table while maintaining direct eye contact with its owner. The message below it read, "This could be us, but you playing. T-1 month. TikTok." In the ensuing silence, Ambassador Cathrix finally voiced what everyone was thinking. We really should have seen this coming when they started naming their exploration vessels things like, "Actually, we can," and "Watch this." The next month would go down in galactic history as the Great Recalibration, during which the various species of the galaxy learned several important lessons. 1. Never underestimate a species that turns everything, including spite, into a science. 2. Any species that can make friends with literally anything, from primitive cleaning robots to deadly predators, probably shouldn't be treated like they're emotionally simple. 3. A species that responds to being told you can't do that with "hold my beverage of choice and watch this" is probably not one you want to challenge. But perhaps most importantly, they learned that humanity's capacity for patience was matched only by their capacity for dramatic reveals and perfectly timed pettiness. The humans, for their part, spent that month releasing daily, behind-the-scenes videos of all the ways they'd been messing with the galaxy, each one ending with the same tagline. This has been a public service announcement from humanity. Remember, don't treat your humans like pets, or we'll treat your entire civilization like our personal sitcom. By the time the month was up, the Galactic Council had not only met all of humanity's demands, but had also created a new position: Director of Human Relations and Apology Management. The first order of business was dealing with the fact that humans had apparently been running an underground galaxy-wide social network called Spacebook, where they'd been posting their actual technological achievements with the hashtag #JustPretendYouDidn'tSee-That. The second order of business was trying to convince humanity to stop naming their new officially recognized warships things like "We tried to be nice" and "Patience is a virtue we no longer possess." They were unsuccessful. Even centuries later, alien species would sometimes find ancient human messages hidden in the most unlikely places, all dated from before the Great Recalibration. The messages all contained some variation of, "If you're reading this, we've probably stopped pretending we can't read your languages. Surprise." And that's the story of how humanity went from being the galaxy's emotional support animals to its collective "well, we learned something today" moment. "You know what the worst part is?" Ambassador Chen said, casually spinning in her zero-gravity chair in Earth's new Galactic Council chamber. "We weren't even trying that hard to hide most of it." The assembled alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. After the Great Recalibration, humanity had insisted on hosting the next major council session on Earth. Specifically, they'd hosted it in one of their spite stations, which turned out to be even more impressive up close. Is that why there's a coffee machine in here that appears to be powered by a miniature star?" Cathrix asked, staring at the device in the corner that was cheerfully defying several laws of physics while brewing what it claimed was a venti supernova spice latte. "Oh, that?" Chen grinned. "That was literally a joke project. Some grad student wrote Starbucks on their thesis proposal as a pun, and, well, we got carried away. Speaking of which, anyone want a coffee? It's made with real fusion energy." Several environmental suits registered subtle tremors as their occupants shuddered. "But that's impossible," Zixtal protested. "You couldn't have... the energy requirements alone." "Actually," Chen said, pulling up a holographic display that manifested as a series of dancing coffee cups demonstrating atomic fusion. "It turns out the energy requirements aren't that bad when you approach it from a completely ridiculous angle. See, We had this theory that if we treated physics less like a strict set of laws, and more like strong suggestions that could be creatively interpreted. Please stop, Grexs burbled from their methane tank. Every time you explain how you did something impossible, our theoretical physics departments have to take a mental health day. Chen shrugged. Fine, but you're missing out on the part where we solved the quantum entanglement problem by asking, what if we just made the particles really, really good friends? The room's AI assistant, which humans had naturally named HAL 9000 but nice, chimed in. Would anyone like to see the research paper titled, The Power of Friendship, a Quantum Mechanical Approach to Particle Relationship Counseling? That's not the actual title, Cathrix said weakly, more hoping than believing. Oh no, it absolutely is, Chen confirmed. We've been publishing our actual research under increasingly ridiculous titles for decades. My personal favorite is Hold My Beer, a practical application of spite-based engineering in faster-than-light travel. She pulled up another hologram, this one showing a massive starship under construction. Its hull proudly displayed the name RSS. Actually, it's not that complicated. RSS? Ambassador Grex inquired, dreading the answer. Ridiculously simple spaceship, Chen explained. We decided if you were going to treat us like we couldn't handle complex acronyms, we'd lean into it. Hard. The ship's specifications appeared next to it, causing several species' universal translators to temporarily crash as they tried to process equations that appeared to be annotated entirely in emoji. Are those calculations correct? Cathrix asked after their translator rebooted. Oh yeah. Turns out emoji are surprisingly good at expressing quantum mathematical concepts. Who knew? We've actually developed an entire branch of mathematics based on using them. We call it quantum memetics. The room fell silent as the aliens processed this information. But why? Zixtal finally asked. Why go to all this trouble just to be like this? Chen's smile turned slightly predatory. Because you all spent 3 centuries treating us like we were simple, emotional creatures who needed to be protected from the complexities of the universe. So we decided to show you just how creative we could be when properly motivated by petty revenge. She gestured around the station. Everything you see here was developed by humans who were told, that's impossible, one too many times. This entire station runs on what we call spite core technology. Perfectly viable scientific principles that we discovered specifically because someone said we couldn't. The coffee machine was invented because someone said humans couldn't possibly make coffee better than it already was. The engineer who designed it had it running on fusion power within a week, just to prove a point. Chen stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. You know what your biggest mistake was? Not the underestimation, not the condescension. It was assuming that human emotional capacity was a weakness rather than our greatest strength. She turned back to the council. You thought our ability to form emotional attachments to anything was cute. What you missed was that this same trait means we can look at any problem and go, you know what? I'm going to befriend this equation until it works. The holographic display shifted to show a series of laboratories where humans could be seen working on various impossible projects. In one, a scientist was apparently having a heart-to-heart conversation with a quantum probability field. Is she actually giving relationship advice to quantum particles? Yes. And it's working. Turns out entanglement is much more stable if you just ask the particles how they're feeling about their connection. Chen sat back down, propping her feet up on a console that seemed to be made of solid light. So, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, who's ready to see what humanity can do when we're not pretending to be simple? She pressed a button, and the station's walls turned transparent, revealing the true scale of human achievement. Stretching out in every direction were structures that defied conventional physics. Ships that looked like they were designed by artists who'd taken form follows function as a personal challenge, and what appeared to be a small moon that had been converted into a giant mood ring. Welcome, Chen said with a grin, to what we like to call Humanity Unleashed, the remix. First order of business, explaining why we turned Jupiter into a giant lava lamp. No, it wasn't necessary. Yes, we did it anyway. Any questions? The council chamber erupted into chaos once again, but this time with a different flavor. The desperate scramble of species realizing that humanity hadn't just been hiding their capabilities. They'd been having fun doing it. In the corner, the fusion-powered coffee machine dinged cheerfully and announced, "Your quantum uncertainty hot chocolate is ready. Warning, consuming this beverage may cause you to exist in multiple states simultaneously, but it's really good with marshmallows." Chen looked at her watch, a real one this time, though it probably also controlled a small fleet of starships, and smiled. Oh, and before I forget, we're hosting an intergalactic science fair next month. The theme is Things We Invented Just Because You Said We Couldn't. First prize is a tour of our solar system's new mood lighting system. Yes, we gave the entire solar system mood lighting, because we could. As the aliens tried to process this information, HAL 9000, but Nice helpfully started playing Thus Spoke Zarathustra in the background, accompanied by what sounded suspiciously like a kazoo orchestra. Humanity, it seemed, was done pretending to be simple. They were, however, never going to stop being extra about it. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a human scientist was probably explaining the concept of friendship to a black hole, just to see what would happen. So, Dr. Sarah Martinez said, standing before the Galactic Scientific Congress, who wants to see what humans do for fun? The assembled alien scientists, still recovering from last week's revelation about quantum particle relationship counseling, collectively tensed. The last time a human had asked that question, they'd shown off their hobby project of teaching black holes to play fetch. Defined fun, Cathrix said carefully. They'd been appointed head of the newly formed Human Scientific Achievement Damage Control Department after the coffee machine incident. Well, Sarah said, pulling up a holographic display that seemed to be made of crystallized laughter. You know how you all thought we were using our spare time to watch cat videos? Were you not? Oh no, we absolutely were. But we were also doing other things. Computer, show project unnecessary but awesome. The display shifted to show what appeared to be a massive space station shaped like a cat playing with a ball of yarn. Except the yarn was actually a series of interconnected wormholes. We call it the yarn theory of everything, Sarah explained cheerfully. Turns out if you visualize quantum strings as a cat's playground, a lot of theoretical physics suddenly makes more sense. Also, it's adorable. Several theoretical physicists in the audience quietly excused themselves to go scream into the void. The void, thanks to recent human discoveries, now screamed back encouragingly. But that's not even the best part, Sarah continued, either not noticing or politely ignoring the existential crises she was causing. Show them the hobby hall. The hologram expanded to reveal a massive warehouse filled with what could only be described as things humans made because they were bored. Is that a perpetual motion machine powered by dad jokes? One scientist asked, pointing at a device that seemed to be running on pure groans. Yep. Turns out the energy of collective eye rolls is actually quite powerful. We've got a whole division working on harnessing the power of secondhand embarrassment now. The prototype reactor runs entirely on recordings of people watching their old social media posts. Sarah walked through the hologram pointing out various projects. Over here we've got the Quantum Uncertainty Chocolate Fountain. It exists in all possible flavors simultaneously until you taste it. Next to that is our gravity massage chair. It lets you experience different gravitational fields for relaxation. The one that feels like Jupiter is great for back problems. And that? Cathrix pointed to what appeared to be a small galaxy in a jar. Oh, that's just Janet's terrarium. She got really into miniature universe gardening during the pandemic. She's growing a civilization of tiny space squids in there. They've just discovered fire. We're all very proud. The silence in the room was broken only by the sound of several hundred notepads being dropped in unison. But that's, one scientist began, impossible? Unethical? An affront to the natural laws of the universe? Sarah suggested helpfully. Yeah, we get that a lot. But here's the thing. When you spend 3 centuries telling humans they can't do something, we don't just prove you wrong. We turn proving you wrong into an art form. She pulled up another display, this one showing what appeared to be a timeline of human hobby projects. See this spike here? She pointed to a particular moment. That's when someone said humans couldn't possibly make their own stars. 2 weeks later, we had a functioning sun in a bottle. We mainly use it as a desk lamp now. And this project? Another scientist asked, pointing to something labeled Operation Pandora's Playlist. Oh, that's our music department. They figured out how to encode entire symphonies into DNA sequences. Turns out if you play them right, you can get plants to grow in perfect harmony. We've got an entire garden that performs Mozart. Sarah walked over to what appeared to be a normal water cooler. This is my personal favorite. It dispenses H2O from parallel universes. Every cup is literally water you've never tasted before. Last week I had water from a universe where fish invented dubstep. The scientist watched in horror and fascination as she took a sip. Huh. This one's from a reality where the dinosaurs never went extinct and became underwater jazz musicians. Bit too smooth for my taste. But Catherick struggled to find words. Why? Why not? Sarah shrugged. Look, while you all thought we were just being cute and emotional, we were actually having the time of our lives seeing what would happen if we stopped asking why and started asking wouldn't it be funny if... She gestured to another section of the hobby hall. That whole area is just things we invented because someone made a pun and someone else said, wait, what if we took that literally? That's how we ended up with quantum entangled bread. It's always in a superposition of toast and not toast until you open the bread box. And that? Someone pointed to what appeared to be a small dog walking through walls. Oh, that's Steve. We were trying to teach quantum tunneling to particles and accidentally taught it to a puppy instead. He's a good boy in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Congress watched as Steve phased through several solid objects, wagging his tail in frequencies visible only to theoretical mathematicians. But the real breakthrough, Sarah continued, came when we stopped treating the universal constants as constants and started treating them as more of a polite suggestion. Turns out if you ask the speed of light very nicely and present a compelling PowerPoint presentation, it's willing to negotiate. She pulled up one final display, showing what appeared to be a flowchart titled, The Scientific Method, Human Remix. 1. Find something impossible. 2. Take personal offense at its impossibility. 3. Make it possible out of spite. 4. Add unnecessary features just because you can. 5. Give it a pun-based name. 6. Present it to the galaxy with jazz hands. And that's just what we do in our spare time, Sarah concluded. Wait until you see our actual research projects. Anyone want to see the PowerPoint that convinced dark matter to become visible? Fair warning, it includes cat memes from the 21st century. The Congress unanimously decided to take a brief recess, during which several species had to update their entire understanding of reality. Again. Meanwhile, in the corner, Steve the quantum tunneling puppy had somehow taught the water cooler to play fetch with liquid antimatter. Sarah made a note to submit that for the next Nobel Prize in Physics. The committee had given up questioning human submissions after the mood ring Moon 1 last year. As the scientists filed out for their existential crisis break, Sarah turned to Cathrix with a grin. Want to see what happened when we taught a black hole to sing? Turns out they're quite fond of barbershop quartet. Cathrix just stared at their notes, which had somehow transformed into a haiku about the futility of understanding human creativity. Thank you for contacting Human Innovation Support, where we help you understand what humanity did this time. My name is Marcus. How can I help you today? The holographic display showed a very distressed Zixtal, all their sensory stalks twitching in agitation. Yes, hello. I'm calling about the thing that happened in the Orion sector. Marcus pulled up his customer service interface, a surprisingly cozy-looking virtual space decorated with cat posters saying things like, hang in there, across multiple dimensions, and, if at first you don't succeed, try spite. Ah yes, the Orion incident. Which one specifically? We've had several this week. The one with the space-time origami? Oh! Marcus brightened. You mean Project Papercut? Yeah, that was one of our intern projects. Turns out if you fold space-time just right, you can make a pretty decent paper crane. Though we're still working out some bugs. Last week someone accidentally made 1,000 of them, and now they migrate through the sector every spring. Zixtal's environmental suit registered several rapid temperature fluctuations. That's what I'm calling about. They're singing. They weren't supposed to do that for another week, Marcus muttered, making a note. Let me guess. They're performing The Flight of the Valkyries? No, it's never gonna give you up. Marcus facepalmed. Dave from Quantum Computing owes me 20 credits. I told him the meme subroutines would activate early. He typed something into his console. Okay, I can help you with that. Have you tried turning the sector off and on again? Turn off a sector of space? Yeah, just for like 30 seconds. There's a reset button in the quantum foam. We installed them everywhere during the Great Recalibration. Kind of like cosmic circuit breakers. You put reset buttons in space? Well, yeah. It's just good engineering practice. You always need a way to reboot things when they go wrong. Though sometimes they get stuck and you have to hit them with a cosmic wrench. Which reminds me. Marcus checked another screen. Have you been experiencing any temporal hiccups in the Carina Nebula? We've been getting reports of Tuesday happening twice this week. What? How? No worries if you haven't noticed. The duplicate Tuesday has been pretty chill. It's mostly just having coffee and catching up on paperwork. The support interface pinged with another incoming call. Oh, hold please. I need to take this. It's about the singing black holes again. Marcus switched lines. Human Innovation Support, this is Marcus. How can I— Oh, hello Cathrix. How's the anti-paradox spray working out? Cathrix's voice came through sounding slightly frazzled. The spray is fine, but I'm calling about something else. There's a situation in the Human Sciences building. Did someone try to make friends with dark energy again? I told them it's just going through a phase. No, it's— someone left their lunch in the quantum refrigerator. Marcus winced. Let me guess. Schrodinger's sandwich? It exists in all possible states of fresh and expired simultaneously. The cafeteria staff are having an existential crisis. Also, it keeps telling physics jokes. Classic case of quantum humor propagation. Have you tried offering it a drink? Sometimes if you give it a quantum cola, it'll collapse into a definite state of either lunch or stand-up comedy routine. Marcus switched back to Zixtal's call. Sorry about that. Now, about those origami space-time cranes. Would you like them to sing something else? We can probably get them to do Bohemian Rhapsody if you prefer. Though fair warning, their harmony in the fifth dimension is a bit flat. I just want to understand, Zixtal said weakly. Why do humans have a customer service department for reality? Marcus shrugged. Same reason we have IT departments. When you start messing with the fundamental forces of the universe, you need someone to call when things go wrong, or when things go right in unexpected ways, or when things go sideways into dimensions we haven't named yet. He pulled up a customer satisfaction survey that somehow existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Besides, someone has to handle the complaints when our hobby projects achieve sentience. Last week I had to talk down a self-aware coffee machine that was having an existential crisis about whether it was truly expressing itself through its latte art. And was it? Oh yeah. Its cappuccinos are now considered high art in 3 galaxies. It's doing a gallery showing next month called Foam and Void, an exploration of caffeinated consciousness. The interface pinged again. Sorry, got another call coming in. Human Innovation Support, this is Marcus. No sir, you can't return a quantum-entangled cat. Once you've observed it, you've made a commitment. Yes, I understand it's simultaneously the best and worst cat ever. Have you tried giving it a box? Sometimes that helps it decide. Zixtal watched in fascination as Marcus handled call after call. No, you can't sue a parallel universe for copyright infringement. Yes, the mood ring moon is supposed to turn that color when it's feeling philosophical. Sir, teaching entropy to play jazz was bound to have some consequences. Have you tried turning your timeline off and on again? Finally, Marcus turned back to Zixtal. So, about those origami cranes. Would you like me to send a tech out to adjust their musical preferences? We can probably get them to do classical. Though last time we tried that, they developed a taste for Wagner and staged an entire production of The Ring Cycle, using nearby asteroids as props. I think I'll just learn to live with Rick Astley. Excellent choice. Would you like to take our customer satisfaction survey? It's brief, though it may ask you questions about events that haven't happened yet. Time is a bit wonky in our feedback department. As Zixtal's hologram faded, still muttering about singing paper cranes, Marcus turned to his next call. Human Innovation Support, this is Marcus. No sir, teaching quantum physics to your goldfish is not covered under warranty. Yes, I understand it's now lecturing you about string theory. Have you tried offering it tenure? Somewhere in the distance, a chorus of space-time origami cranes began the opening notes of Sweet Caroline. And Tuesday happened for the 3rd time that week, but only in alternate timelines where jazz had been invented by dolphins. Just another day at Human Innovation Support. The end PS. The Customer Service Department later won an award for Most Creative Reality Maintenance. The trophy exists in a quantum superposition of all possible designs and occasionally gives inspirational speeches about proper ticket management across multiple dimensions.